Today on the podcast, we are joined by a guy who's redefining what it means to be present and a high-performing dad, Dave Grange, founder of Live Stellar Challenge. Dave's a peak performance coach who's helped countless men level up in life, but what sets him apart is how he brings the same energy into his home as a husband and father of four. In this episode, we're going to talk about real work, fatherhood, why being a great dad isn't about being perfect, but being present. Dave shares powerful tools like the 3-minute rule, the importance of creating a challenge culture at home, and how to help your kids build confidence through everyday struggles. We even get into affirmations, parenting in the age of comfort, and yes, the right way to mix goldfish and hot chocolate. This is one of those episodes that will fire you up, make you think, and maybe inspire you to go build a fort with your kids. So grab a coffee, protein shake, and let's get into this.
I was drawn to, the fatherhood component of, your podcast and your socials, because there isn't a script for it. And I've been working with high performers for 7 years now as a peak performance coach. And as I get into like business and goals and what they're wanting to accomplish, really a huge part of their life is fatherhood. And they might not, come to me like wanting to, hey, I want to be a better dad. They want to grow their business. They want to get healthier. But as we get into it, we realize like, holy cow, this is a huge part of your life. And so if we don't, focus on it and improve this and really help you show up a world-class dad, then everything else is impacted. So I've just seen that trend of sometimes guys almost like ignore it or like put it on the back burner. It's like, sorry, man, once you're in the club, like it takes center stage, So I love that. And I mean, I've seen that in my own life. I have 4 kids under the age of 9, and I love the family dynamic. And at least as a coach, like I see, man, I'm applying my coaching to my own life every day. And so, I love getting in there, having good conversations with guys like you about fatherhood, about, how can we step up as men, as husbands, as fathers. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And so, oftentimes I'm thinking like, I hope other dads are out there teaching their kids, because my kids are going to marry their son. My sons are going to marry their daughters, so the more dudes we can have intentionally fathering, their kids and teaching good quality values and structure and love and, life lessons, then it's like, all right, let's find those kids and like, let's keep growing this wonderful life, that we're able to carve out. So I think it's so important. And I think, that's why we're here, right? Having these conversations, and hopefully, some of the listeners can glean some good stuff, and we can glean some good stuff from today's call of, how we can improve, how we can step up and rise up as stellar dudes, stellar dads.
100%. I did see your one of your stories yesterday, and you guys were, I don't know if you guys were building some kind of little staircase out of like sticks. And then I also saw, are you guys Seahawks fans?
No, my son, I mean, yes, when we watch football, that's one of the teams we watch. But yeah.
So I'm a Seahawk fan. I'm from Washington, Georgia. So
nice. Yeah, totally. I mean, we're big fans. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and his default is to be a hustler. Like, go to work, crank, hustle. Like that's his default. And then he has to like schedule time with his kids, or like schedule, like, okay, be intentional, do these things with my dad or with my kids. And I am like, I love what I do professionally, but my default is like, man, I'm going to freaking make forts with the kids. I'm going to be skiing with the kids and hooky bobby. And that's my default. And so I have to be the opposite of like, oh yeah, I need to like pay the mortgage. I need to, coach and grow my business to pay the bills. So I think it's cool how we're all just wired differently, and, we can also be wired different, but come together and be on the same mission, hopefully, of raising awesome kids and just giving our best shot.
Well, we've talked to a couple guys in the past, and at the end of the day, that's really what matters is what's in the household, So you can spend all day at work, but you come home and you got to have that switch. We talked to Rudy Reed-Skins, and he talked about there's a touch point when he comes home. Like he could touch like a leaf or something outside, but that's him like kind of turning off work mode and like just being fully in dead. And a lot of people don't do that. So it is cool that oh, you don't, a lot of people don't think like, oh yeah, kids first, then work. No, they're going to think, okay, I got to get my work done, then I'll make time for the kids later.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminds me actually the 3-minute rule. I was working with one guy and we, kind of identified this goal of if he can win the first 3 minutes when his kids wake up from bed in the morning, if he can be there, present, love them. And then the first 3 minutes when he comes home from work, and just love them. And then the last 3 minutes before they go to bed. Like if he can win those 3 minutes, then that just sets the tone. And like your buddy, with touching that leaf, there's these transition times where you come home from work and it's like, oh man, the kids might be a mess. There's crayons on the wall. There's a broken something in the house. There's different things. And it's easy to just be like, what the heck? Sit down, do this. The drill sergeant, comes out. And it's like, you know what? That conversation can come, but like, welcome home. Like dad's home. Like, so I love those 3 minutes, throughout the day. And it's simple, but I mean, I use that. These other guys use that just as a reminder. It's not literally 3 minutes, like beep, okay, go. But it's just winning those minutes, and just that intentionality goes so far with kids.
Yeah, I could imagine, because, one thing that we have talked about on this podcast too is your kids. Like you may have had like a long day, like work may have not been the best, like the day just hasn't been great. And so you hold all of that on your shoulders as you're coming in. But your kids, they've been waiting for dad to get home. Like that's something that they've been like looking forward to. And when you come home and you just snap on them, and it's like, man, like I love my dad so much and I wanted him, but it doesn't feel like he loves me. So taking those 3 minutes, to just really love on them and be excited to be home with them probably will go a long way with their development and how they see, okay, dad loves me just as much as I love him, because they do look forward to you coming home or a mom coming home. So we have to do that where we transition into, okay, I got to get into dad mode. Forget what happened with the day.
Totally.
It's like a reset of the day. So
totally. Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah, and DJ, like, so we, a little bit of backstory with us, because we haven't really talked much yet, is with us. So DJ, he works and comes home. His wife actually just got her degree, so she's gonna be a stay-at-home mom and teach homeschool her kids. So really
cool.
Awesome. And then I do social media stuff from home. So we kind of have a swapped dynamic between me and him. Like he works, comes home, got the normal. I'm home with kids, and then when mom comes home, then I kind of get a break. Not really, but. So that's kind of how we play. So it's kind of cool. Like our stories they kind of come together, but at the same time, we got two different aspects of life coming in our households. And now you said you've got 4. DJ's got 3. I've got 2. All of our kids. My son just turned 9 2 weeks ago, and my daughter is 7. Yeah,
we're right in the pocket then. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah,
right in the pocket. Right.
It's the fun time, right? They're starting to like kind of figure out who they are, but kind of like have no idea what to do. And yeah,
totally.
Like my son's getting very, very independent nowadays. So it's fun to see the shift,
Way. Well, and it's interesting, the roles that you guys talk about too. My wife has her business. I have mine. And it's really important in our household that one of us is home with the kids. That's just a really important thing for us. And so it's tricky because it's like, man, it'd be easy to hire, help, but we want to be the ones in the house. And so I work Tuesday, Thursdays. She works Monday, Wednesdays, and we kind of split Fridays. And it's tricky, it's tricky in that regard. But so on half the week, I'm Mr. Mom and lean into that role 100%. And I love it. And then I also have the office time. But it's funny sometimes when I'm the only dude at the park, at 11 a.m. It's a bunch of moms, it's like, oh, what do you do? So it's just kind of funny. Sometimes those roles are noticeably different, which is kind of socially, but we love it and we make it work. And yeah, it's the dynamic that works for us.
And we've talked about it in the past. You kind of have to figure it out. Like nowadays, everyone, if you ask, our parents or our grandparents are like, oh, the man has to work, the wife has to stay home, the kids and do everything. And like, it's changing nowadays. And you just have to, whatever works for your family, works for your family, essentially.
Sure.
You can't live off of what other people say. And so it's cool that you guys make it work like that.
Yeah, it's your own recipe. Each household has their own recipe for success. As long as you're intentional about it.
Yep.
Awesome.
You probably have seen a lot of that with people coming through your program, just the different dynamics that each of them hold. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and how to navigate the different, different realities that people have. But
well, I think of the thing that comes to mind with that. Dr. Becky is, I think, marriage and family therapist. And she was saying the top 100 pieces of advice for any successful marriage would be self-care and communication repeated 50 times each. And I see that. So relating to like roles in households, if you're taking care of yourself and if you're communicating, you can talk about those roles. You can design those roles for your own successful relationship. But what I see a problem is when one person is taking care of themselves, they're organized, they're trying to plan each day, and the other one's just winging it. Yeah, they're just hanging out. No, I'll be there. It's like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
We've got to both give it 100% and both be taking care of ourselves so that you have the energy to actually make it happen. That's one of the biggest things I coach in my program, because it's one of the biggest problems I see is that guys have goals. I want to be that present dad. I want to teach my kids good stuff. I want to work hard. But they don't take care of themselves to have the energy to make it happen. So it's like saying, family, load up the car. We're going on a road trip. Oh, wait, I've got an empty tank. Like, we can't go anywhere. We can't do those fun family things because I'm not taking care of myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to be there. And so defining those roles starts with defining yourself, with taking care of yourself and talking about anything and everything with your spouse in a constructive way, not blasting at them, right? But being a co-leader with that and discussing that. So I think those are big reminders that I see of we've got to be taking care of ourselves, and we've got to be able to talk about anything and everything, even if it's uncomfortable. That's what we need to lean into most sometimes.
Yeah. And that's good for your kids too, because they'll see at the end of the day, like mom and dad having that uncomfortable conversation, and it helps them grow in that. So when they're older, they're going to have that life, and they're not going to be scared of those conversations.
For sure. I love having a heated discussion with my wife in front of our kids. Because I trust, they're seeing, oh, mom and dad are talking about it. Okay. They're asking questions. They're listening. They're being respectful. They're not shouting at each other or anything, but they can feel heat, but they also see how to navigate that, because the studies are abundant with what we model for our kids is what they expect then in their future relationships. So I love the idea. What our kids see us do is what they think is normal.
Right.
I love putting fishy crackers in hot chocolate. I just like, it's the cheese and chocolate combo. I don't know. And so my kids all love it. We were camping with friends, and my kids start, putting some crackers in their hot chocolate, and the other kids are like, "What are you doing? No, you can't do that." And they're like, "No, like we do that all the time." And I loved it because they thought it was normal. My kids, and that's a silly example, but it's also like, what are they seeing dad do? I do a lot of trail running and mountain biking and kind of adventuring, and my kids these days think that's normal. Oh, of course, that's what we do. And I love, seeing them model that then as a 9, 7, 5-year-old, of them getting after it. Hey, Dad, I thought of a new challenge. It's like, sweet, tell me about it. I'm going to run this amount each day this week. It's like, heck yeah, like that's awesome. Because they think that's normal, which it is normal to them. But I just think we are creating the normal realities for our kids. And when we really lean into that, it's like, man, that hopefully is motivating for us to rise up and tighten things up, be a little bit better on our own front, just for our kids' sake.
And I think it is easy for a lot of parents nowadays to just get in that mindset of they'll just let school or the society kind of teach their kids. And that's why I think we have such epidemic of like laziness nowadays, is because parents just have stopped caring almost. And so that's what you're saying. Like, we have to step up and we have to be there and show them what the norm is versus just let them learn outside of everything else, you know?
Yeah, that's really interesting, Alec. Like, what do you think? I'm aware of that. I haven't really like labeled it that though. So I love hearing that. Like, yeah, you could call it laziness, or you could call it like parents not caring. At the same time, I'm surrounded by like parents who are really more intentional than parents ever have been. And so it's like, oh man, but you're right. Like, so many parents are like, default, here's the iPad, stay quiet kind of thing. So what do you see, or what do you notice? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think me and DJ, same thing. Like, we kind of surround ourselves now with the podcast, especially like with dads that are just like that, but it's all like high performance dads. And we all kind of talk, it comes down to it. Like, a lot of parents, they give the iPad and then they go and they don't see their kids for 5 hours. And they're like, all right, what do you want for dinner? Let's get go to sleep. Totally. And it's done. And it's something, so we talk about a lot. Actually, I'm slowly writing a book on this. It's going to be called, what is it, DJ? Oh my gosh. Parenting is only hard for good parents. Because it's real easy to be a bad parent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but yeah,
that's awesome. That sounds so needed. Well, and I feel like people know it. I feel like that's the, like, hey, do you want a snack? Do you want, an apple or a sack of potato chips? It's like, well, I know I should eat the apple, but I like the potato chip, like parenting, they know they should, but, well, at least I'm assuming there. Do you think parents even know how to parent well?
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends what you come from. Like for me, I had my stepdad and my mom, but always my biological father wasn't there, so I always had that. So I think that on my journey, I've gone through a lot of like, okay, how do I dad? And so you do look for, like, for us, we've been lucky because we've talked to a lot of dads like yourself, and we're pulling in, which we have. I feel like me and DJ have taken a lot of what we've learned on the podcast and put it into place. But I do think that's what it is. It's just people either don't want to have it and be there and be present, or they just want to have the easy. They just want to be, like you said, lazy, and they just want the easy route through life. And that's how it is nowadays. People want, like, it's the Amazon generation. We want it now. We want it then now.
Yeah.
No one wants to wait for anything. No one wants to put the patience in to do the work the right way, essentially. You know what? Everyone wants to be a YouTube star. Everyone wants to be famous in 10 seconds. And that's what it is when it comes to social media, stuff like that. Everyone wants the virality of life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, so. Totally. This is really reminding me of one of my favorite books called The Comfort Crisis. You guys read this one?
I have not.
Heard of it?
No.
Outstanding book, because instead of lazy, which it totally could be labeled as that, but the author, and I'm forgetting his name, but it talks about we're comfortable. We love being comfortable. And we live in the most comfortable times the world has ever seen, with immediate gratification. If I'm hungry, hopefully most kids can go to the pantry and grab some food anytime. If they're cold, they can turn on the heat. If they're hot, they can turn on the AC. Like, we have immediate climate control. Most, a lot of people. And so with that, then it's led to people being so comfortable and resisting challenge that there's higher anxiety, depression, and sense of belonging, or lack of sense of belonging, than ever before. And these studies directly relate anxiety, depression, and a sense of belonging to a lack of being challenged. And it dives into a lot of different things from there. But the comfort crisis, I see that with parenting, where parents just want to be comfortable. I've had a long day of work. Here's the iPad. I want to be comfortable and not have to coach or teach or guide my kids. I want to just relax and doom scroll. Is what we see, and is what I see. And so it's so cool to see then parents and individuals embrace a challenge culture, as I like to call it. And I think that's so huge for kids. In our household, we have a challenge culture where every week we're identifying, where do we want to challenge ourselves this week? That could be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And with that, one example, I was doing my weekly planning with our kids a couple years ago now, and my 7-year-old at the time, he said, Dad, for my physical goal this week, I want to be one of those guys that have all their stuff on their bike. And I was like, oh, like not a homeless person, right? But a bike packer. In our neck of the woods, we're in a mountain town near Sun Valley, Idaho, and there's bike packers, where you're camping via mountain biking and going across cool different terrain. And anyway, I said, awesome. So long story short, we identified a couple training rides we could go on, some gear we needed to just, finish our, packs, so to speak. And we went out, it was his idea, had a couple training rides, and then we went out on a 5 miles out, camped, 5 miles back. It was his idea. And we have now done that. This is our 3rd year doing it every year. And now my other kids are doing it too, my 7 and 5-year-old. And they're packing their own gear. They strap it to their bike. They're packing their own stuff. They're planning what to bring. And not only is that an adventure, but they are building competence and confidence, challenging themselves. And they recognize, I want to do this. I need to train for that. So we're going to prepare ourselves for that. There might be some gear we need to save our money for and purchase and finish that. And it's been such a beautiful example to me of planning with your kids, embracing challenge. When it's hard, that doesn't mean you're doing life wrong. It just means it's hard and it's the growth zone. But for kids, sometimes they see how easy it is for dad and mom to do something. And so then when they're struggling to go on a hike or go on a bike ride, oh, this is hard. I must be doing it wrong. I must be bad at this. I'm not good at this. I'm not meant for this. And what an opportunity then for these kids to push through that and to encourage them and help them understand that through adventure challenges. I mean, that's my lifeblood for at least my main method of how do you teach challenge. And one other thing on that topic, I was talking to a guy about this, a buddy of mine, and he said, man, my wife is so good at distracting our kids on hikes, for example, that, it's like, oh, what's around the next curve? Let's look for rainbows and, little ogres, and like little fun, fairies and stuff. And then the kids make it to the top of this peak. And they're like, oh, I'm here, but they miss the fact of it is hard. No, we're going out on this journey to do something hard. And then the kids build confidence knowing, oh, I pushed through when my legs were tired and I was hot and I was hungry, but I pushed through and did that. Look at this peak I'm at now. I earned this.
Right.
And so I think of that challenge culture in our families, and we don't all have access to mountain peaks or other things, but we do have access to what's in our own household. We can create micro adventures or mini challenges. How many times can you go up the stairs, each day? And whatever that is. But I think that challenge culture is the antidote to this comfort crisis, where we're seeking discomfort. We're seeking where can we push ourselves. And that's been so powerful for the kids and the dudes I work with, is creating a challenge culture in your own home.
I think it starts with us. Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh, I think it does start with us as dads, like pushing ourselves, and they'll see that, so like, no, we're not going to talk about it a lot on here, so probably don't want to be a dead horse, but I have been on a weight loss journey, and so my kids are now seeing that. And so my son, we were talking about yesterday, he's like, Dad, you're doing push-ups? I was like, yeah, dude, I hate doing push-ups. He's like, can I do push-ups with you? I'm like, yeah, dude, let's do push-ups. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's very, I mean, not athletic, because we're not a very athletic household, but he just hit 107 miles for the year at school. And so he's killing it this year. So proud of him. And so like he's soccer, he likes riding his bike. So it's like finding things like that. Like me growing up, I didn't like doing any of that stuff. And now I'm kind of finding that I like to do it. Like we went hiking like a month ago. I hate hiking. I absolutely hate it. But we did a 5-mile hike, and it was awesome. Like we just had fun. There was caves and just had fun. The kids had fun. And so, yeah, I think it does start with us, to where, if they're going to see mom and dad, like you said, just not wanting to do anything, that's how they're going to be. But if they see us wanting to go hiking and go do this or that, like we go camping a lot. We love camping. And so they like camping and they like going on, and like we bought them these little plastic cap guns for camping, and they just went off and adventured in the park, and they're just shooting squirrels and all that stuff. Really shooting squirrels. People watching. We're not hurting animals. But yeah, it's just putting them in that environment to have fun and kind of make their own adventures. Like when I grew up, it was camping. We just were able to go anywhere in the park we wanted to go. Just me and my brothers just go get in trouble, and we'll fix it after. But just that sense of adventure is kind of dwindling nowadays. But like I said, it just starts with the dads and the moms just getting out there and putting them in that environment.
Totally. And if I could add to that, Alec, too, I think one, your kids see it, but two, to have then discussions about it, as a family. Like that's what we can talk about at dinner is, man, how'd you guys feel on that hike? Oh, that was hard. It was hot. I was hungry. And you guys still did it. You pushed through. Yes, you were complaining. That's okay. We learn, right? You can have fun with it, but it's like, at least for me, maybe it's the coach in me, but I like locking in the learning. Like, you guys hiked 5 miles today. That's 5 miles, and then like secretly to myself, that's now our new benchmark. We're constantly raising the bar of like, hey, this week it's 6 miles. I'm like, no, that's too much. I'm like, guys, last week you did 5. Like, let's do this. So I personally really like locking in the learning too and having those discussions. I think it's awesome. Your kids are seeing you do push-ups and feel healthier, look healthier. Like, that's awesome. And I'd want to lock that in. Like, yeah, we do that because we like camping. I want to camp longer with you guys. Like, that's why I'm taking care of my body. And so I think that's also important is really helping your kids talk about it, process it. Not saying you're not, but I'm saying that's a great example of showing them and talking about it.
Yeah, I think it goes just to circle back. You mentioned self-care and really teaching them self-care, right? Like self-talk. And when you have those conversations with your kids and saying, look, like even though you were tired, even though you were hungry and it was hot outside, you still did it. And now when they're in the thick of it, they're like, I did do it. I can do this. And something that I got in the habit of with my kids, like they'll be climbing up something, do like a little rock thing at the park or whatever. And they'll be going up the ladder or whatever. And there'll be moments where they get scared. And I hear them now because we've done this a few times, but I tell them, I want you to say, I got this. I know it's hard. I know it's scary, but just look at me real quick. Take my belief in me, or take my belief that I have in you. If anything, you don't have any belief for yourself, take this. Like, I believe in you. You got this. And I want you to say, I got this. And now I'll hear them. They'll be like and they get scared. And I hear them say it to themselves, I got this. And it's like, oh my God, this is a cool, like, proud dad moment. But it does start with you. It does start with, how do you take care of yourself and how do you talk to yourself? And because they hear all of that. If you beat yourself up over everything, they're gonna hear that. If you say, oh, I can't do anything, or I'm never gonna accomplish anything, or like if they hear those things, they're gonna be like, then why do I believe you when you say that I can do it? And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, but
yeah, that actually brings up a point that I love. Affirmations are huge. Positive affirmations. However, if my wife, for example, is in a mood, bummed out for something, and I come in and I'm like, it's okay, honey, just look on the bright side, right? Like, no one wants that, no one wants that. And how often do we do that for our kids? Like, oh, I'm struggling, this is hard. And it's like, it's okay, son, just look on the bright side. It's like, no, they're on the pain train right now. Like, your affirmation might not help. But what I love about yours, DJ, is it's not like, go crush this, go win, but it's, I got this. It's just reaffirming their own ability to like take another step. And it reminds me of another stellar book. It's called It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Mowad. And he's a mindset and performance coach. And one example he shares is there's positive affirmations and there's neutral thinking. And Michael Johnson was a runner back in the day and kind of introduced this idea. of neutral thinking, where every time he'd get in the starting blocks, he would say these 4 things to himself. He'd say, keep my head down, pump my arms, explode. I'm a bullet. Right, these 4 things. He didn't say, I'm going to win this race. I'm going to crush these fools. I'm number 1. Because those are all things outside of his control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He wasn't saying, it's okay, look on the bright side. He was saying, no, keep my head down, pump my arms, explode. I'm a bullet. To your example, DJ, with that reminder, I got this. The nerves might be high, you know, the stress might be high, the fatigue is strong, but I got this. Like, that's so powerful for your kids and helping them. I think I hear a lot of dads, you know, especially with this challenge culture idea, they're like, you're doing great, kid. You're awesome. You're amazing, you know, and it's disguised as like positive affirmations and stuff, but it's actually can do more harm than good, because they don't feel amazing when their legs are burning and they're tired and they're hungry and they have a bad attitude. That doesn't feel amazing to them. But what can be amazing to them is a more neutral approach of, I got this. This is hard. This is hot. I don't know if I can do this, but actually, I got this. And so I think that's a powerful thing sometimes, where be careful with what you're affirming to them. This is amazing. You're amazing for feeling like crap, complaining and being tired and hungry. No, you're amazing because you feel those things and you're pushing through. I can see this is hard for you and you're still doing it. That's awesome. Like, you are amazing for that. This is hard. I'm hungry too. Way to push through that. Like, that's a different result for a kid, and so empowering. And in the moment, I just leave it. I let it simmer. But then later that night, when it's those last 3 minutes before bed, that's a great time to bring it up again. Hey guys, awesome job at the hike. I noticed it was hard. I noticed we did those 5 miles and all these things. Way to push through. You guys are strong for pushing through. You know, that's where it locks it in. I think it's easy to just give them the iPad and go on your way, kid, right?
Yeah.
But man, if we can lock it in, like, this is where 1 degree differences, these kids end up in totally different destinations of confidence, of competence, of love, appreciate, you know, all these wonderful things.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just thought about this, but Jasmine, my wife, and I, what we do is so Nate, our oldest, he'll say, Dad, look at my picture. How did I do? And we put that question back on him. How do you think you did?
Yes.
Because the one thing that happens is, if I'm constantly telling him you did good, you did great, he's not going to believe he did great unless somebody affirms the fact that he did great. But if he thinks he did great, and he can say that to us and says, I did great, I think you did great too, and you just reaffirm what he thinks about himself, that's also the key to creating kids who will be confident, and also, like, they'll be independent of anybody else, because they'll believe in themselves and they'll have the belief in themselves. And so that's a question that we phrase to our kids. Well, how do you think you did? And so.
Perfect. That's so powerful. Because if they scribbled outside the lines and it's really kind of a crappy job for them, they're like, check out this piece of crap. Dad, what do you think? And you're like, oh, it's awesome. You're amazing. Wow. So my crap job is amazing. And some kids, we all have different ages. My 2-year-old, like, that's awesome. There's color, remotely in the same,
Right.
like, that's awesome. Right. But, depending on the age. So I think that's a brilliant question and so powerful for kids to, how do you think you did? And yeah. Excellent. And I think that's great too with this challenge culture. Hey, how do you think you did on the hike? How do you think you did on that bike ride? How do you think you did handling that situation with your friend when they kind of didn't share?
Right.
This is huge, but that just takes, and I'm not saying guys need all of a sudden be some, performance coach overnight, but it just takes, I think, a little bit of curiosity. It takes a little bit of intention. I think with affirming things of what kind of dad do you want to be? Write down a couple notes. I love a strength statement. One of my favorite ways to do that is to make a word bank. Write down 15 to 20 words that you aspire for or to be as a dad. I want to be loving, caring. I want to be intentional. I want to be disciplined. I want to be fun and funny, and whatever those character traits. But then I go back and I circle the 7, my top 7. And maybe the season I'm in right now, I really want to be a listener. I really want to be a guide, for my kids, a place of rock solid support. And I have 7 words or character qualities that I aspire to, and I just make a sentence with it. And it doesn't have to be a grammatically correct sentence, but I am a world-class dad who listens deeply and is curious and teaches with power and love and patience. That might be something I repeat to myself every morning for a month. And then I might be in a different season, but like that's the season I'm in right now. And when we speak it, we kind of rise up to that. It's that reminder. Sometimes I get pretty, as you can imagine, sometimes I'm coach dad a lot, right? Like I show up and it's like, we're going to crush life, kids. This is, the lesson learned. And sometimes I realize laughter and funny are important to me. That's really important to me. But sometimes as a dad, I get kind of teachy, I get kind of coachy. And so just affirming to myself or reminding myself of my value of laughter and funny, then it's like, oh man, then I'll say a joke or I'll do a goofy dance move in the kitchen and get my kids laughing. And it's like, man, that's important to me too. Not just like my dad coached me all the time, but like, oh, my dad was funny. We laugh. So some guys need that. I need that. Just that reminder of where we're trying to be, who we're trying to be, and exemplify for our kids. So that triggered that, DJ.
Me and DJ like to think we're funny. We think we're funny. We laugh at each other's jokes. We do dad jokes with our kids all the time. Our wives are sisters, and so they just they just roll their eyes at us when we make the dumbest dad jokes. But we'll be sitting there rolling on the floor laughing. And my son starts to. He'll call my dad, and he'll like, I want to call Papa. I've got a dad joke. So he calls my dad. He'll just tell him the joke, and then he'll like do the punchline, and then he'll hang up the phone.
Oh, funny. Funny. That is so great. And I love it. My brother and I, when we're together, like we have our humor that like, I just laugh harder with him than anyone else. And my kids see that. And it's really cute because then when, my brother and I are then separated, they'll say things. I'll be like, right, like this. And I can tell they're trying our style of humor on us. And I love that. And so, it's so cool seeing your kids' dad jokes. Our kids see so much, and yes, I just wish every dad could lean into that and just love it. Love being a dad. Love the challenge of it. The struggles and the rewards are beyond. Just measure. It's so awesome.
It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but it's one of the best things you'll ever do.
Amen. Yep.
I know at the beginning, DJ talked about like your coaching and stuff like that. If you want to talk about is it the Live Stellar Challenge?
Yeah, the Live Stellar Challenge. I'd love to. This is like what I live, eat, and breathe, guys. So I appreciate. One thing I've noticed is I can coach one woman, and she goes to her book club and is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm working with Dave, and it's amazing. You guys, need to work with Dave." And they just talk about it. They talk about like, "Yeah, I'm feeling better. I have better structures in my life." And whereas I can coach, CEOs and business owner dudes, and they're just like, "Performance is good." It's like, man. So with dudes, I find they just don't share as much. So with that, and also guys are less what I'm generalizing, but most men are like, no, life is good. Like I'm good. I don't need coaching. I can figure it out on my own kind of thing. And that's just a common misconception of, I call it the good lie, where most guys are like, no, life is good. It's like, I know life is good, but like, let's get in it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your relationship? 6, with your kids, how, 5, I've been busy with work. How about your health? 4, I've been super busy. It's like, okay, so you're telling me good is like 6s and 5s and, 4s? It's like, well, I guess you're right. Right. And then it's like, okay, now let's have a conversation. So the good lie, we've got to be careful of it with dudes. But what I've done is most guys love a good challenge. I love a good challenge, right? So I have created, I call it the Live Stellar Challenge. And it's 6 fundamental habits that I challenge guys to live for a duration of time. The sprint I call is 4 weeks. So like 4 weeks of these 6 fundamental habits. And these are fundamental habits that are not my habits. These are things I've pulled from the best resources from people way smarter than myself. But like, what are the simplest things you can do in your day to get the maximum impact for peak performance? Performance accelerators. And these are things that are so simple that oftentimes they're overlooked and viewed as a nice to have instead of a need to have. So I bundled it up into 4, 8, and 12-week challenges where you maintain these fundamental habits. And then we have peak challenges each week to kind of lock it in. So fundamental habits, weekly challenges, and then I do that in a one-on-one format or a group format. And the one-on-one is awesome because we can really customize it and get into your specific situations and specific tools that might help you. So I love the one-on-one. And the group, totally different dynamic, still same fundamentals and peak challenges, but group mentality. We're having kind of like conversations like this, but I have peak trainings each week for guys. We get in it, talk about relationships, vitality, spirituality, energy, awesome things to help these guys fire on all cylinders. So it's been a fun format. And then all of a sudden, guys are talking about it a little bit more, right? Like, oh man, DJ, you doing the Live Stellar Challenge? And it's like, actually, yeah, and I love it. So that's been the format that I just kind of had to find the right dose or the right method of like getting guys engaged with this. Like, only 1 to 5% of guys can do these habits perfectly for 4, 8, and 12 weeks. 1 to 5%. These are simple things, right?
Right.
But it takes focus, takes discipline, takes action. So I've loved helping guys take on the challenge and launch. Whether they are kind of sofa to creating some good habits, awesome. This is for you. Whether you're a peak performer and you want to take things to the next level, awesome. This is for you. And what we do, most of the guys who go through the program, they say, Dave, I really want accountability and I want consistency. That we as men raising kids are in the busiest, essentially 2 decades of our lives, where we have so many things competing for our attention and energy and focus. And we've got to somehow, take care of ourselves, take care of our spouse, take care of our kids, take care of our finances, and also be there as a present, father and everything else. So it's like, man, we're pulled in so many directions, and my bachelor habits aren't going to cut it. The structures I had as a single dude don't cut it. When I could go to the gym anytime and, work out, and anytime I could eat this or that and stay up late or wake up, whereas when you're a dad, you've got like, this is your window to work out, take it or leave it. Oh, you missed it. Okay. This is your window. And so that's where I want to give guys structure. I want to give them a framework for success. And that's a huge part of this Live Stellar Challenge too, is to give guys a framework or a recipe for success. It's like, hey, I've done the heavy lifting for you. Just plug in and go. Here's these fundamentals. Here's a cool challenge format. Here's some awesome trainings to help you have a recipe for success. And a lot of guys are like, oh, but I'm good. It's like, yeah, but 25% of our day can be lost to distraction and recovering from distraction, not the distraction itself, but recovering from distraction. So what also these structures give is your time back. So you can bounce back faster. When you go on vacation, you don't have another week of like, oh, I should probably get to the gym again. Right? It's like, no, I'm there tomorrow. Like, these fundamentals need to happen. So guys, as diverse and as, different as we can be, there are fundamentals that if we keep, we will operate at a high level. And that's also in the book, It Takes What It Takes. The mindset part was a part of it, but also there's the illusion of choice. It's like, oh, there's a million ways to be successful. It's like, there are, but you look at the fundamentals of what it takes to be successful, and it really comes down to a few core principles. And if you're not living those core principles, you won't be successful in any way.
Yeah.
But if you are, you can be successful in so many different ways, but it comes down to a few core habits, character traits, structures that really set you up for success. So I blasted at you, but that's the program. I love helping dudes create in their lives. And again, in the one-on-one and group formats, it's been really powerful. And and I'm here. I have groups starting almost every month, so if guys want to do the groups, the one-on-one, if they have questions about it, they can always reach out to me and do a free, one-on-one with me to just answer questions, get a taste of it. And that's my goal. That's my mission, is to help more dudes thrive in these areas that matter most. Father, husband, themselves.
And for anyone listening, they can find that. Is it it's livestellarco.com? You
got it. Yeah. Thanks, Alec. Yeah, that's my website. And then live.stellar is my Instagram handle. That's kind of family coaching. I'm trying to figure that out, of like how much coaching, how much, family. But those are great places to find me.
I think that you got to have that, though, the family mingled in there, because that's something we've kind of figured out. Like we went from having just videos of us, like, are people really going to think we're dads if we have nothing of our children?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
totally
cool. And it's cool seeing you like doing all your stuff. Like you were on a mountain bike on the top of a snowy peak in one of your pictures. Like, the heck? Sounds really cool.
Yeah. Fat bike. I know. I grew up in Alaska, so I love.
Oh, wow.
I love the recreation, and that's one thing of just pushing my body and my limits. Is that's where I love to grow and really challenge myself, and so I try to share that with my kids also, and it's powerful. That's maybe I'd say my competitive advantage. That's where I try to really lean into, because that's where I love to push myself and help other guys do the same. And so yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So as we wrap up here, almost at time, but I just wanted to, one last question that we like to ask people who come on is, if you could give one piece of advice to a new dad, to a dad in the thick of it, to an older dad, what would that piece of advice be?
What's coming to mind right now is to live stoked. Like live stellar. Like an excited dad is a fun dad. A dad who's excited about life, whether it's his next adventure, whether it's his family activity, whether it's what he's learning, where he's growing in his life. But to live stoked, to live engaged, I think that's one of the best gifts you can give to your kid, is enthusiasm for life. I can take on challenges better when I'm excited about it. I can handle stresses better when I can embrace it as a challenge, when there's enthusiasm and excitement there. And I guess that would also come to faith. But if I bundled it up just right now in the moment, it'd be live stoked. As dad, what gets you excited? Share that with your kids.
I love that.
I like that.
Cool. Well, thank you for blessing us with your time, sir. And just anybody listening out there, if you guys got anything for this, let us know in the comments. Go follow him. Check out his challenge. And again, just thank you for your time. And we hope to speak with you again.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thanks, Alec. Thanks, DJ. Have a great
Thanks, Dave.
Rest of your weekend, and good luck with your mission. This is such powerful work, talking to dads. And I would just say, too, I hope they know they're not alone. We're all in it together. So it's like, man, let's keep cranking. You guys are amazing. So thank you.